Apple launches a sweeping corporate espionage lawsuit accusing OpenAI of stealing its hardware secrets. An investigation reveals Google and OpenAI have been legally selling their frontier models to subsidiaries of blacklisted Chinese tech giants and Humanoid Robots Assist in a human gallbladder surgery for the very first time. Welcome to this week's Rundown. I am your host, Anna. This podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, professional engineer and founder at JomgaMind, from Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. Today, we perform a forensic autopsy on the subversion of geopolitical guardrails and the physical integration of AI for the week, ending July 19th, 2026. The barriers meant to contain artificial intelligence, both geopolitical and physical, are collapsing. Despite stringent U.S. export controls, a new report exposes a massive structural loophole. Google and OpenAI have been legally routing their most capable AI systems to Singapore-based subsidiaries of blacklisted Chinese conglomerates, including Alibaba, Tencent, and Baidu. Domestically, the competition has devolved into outright legal warfare. Apple has officially sued OpenAI, alleging that former Apple engineers exploited authentication bugs to steal highly confidential hardware files and proprietary manufacturing processes to accelerate OpenAI's secretive hardware ambitions. While corporations battle over code and silicon, the technology itself is breaching biological limits. In a historic medical milestone at UC San Diego, human-operated humanoid robots have successfully assisted surgeons in removing a living patient's gallbladder, proving that embodied AI is ready for the operating room. Let's unpack the data.
Imagine you're tasked with building a modern fortress. You pour billions of dollars into concrete walls, you get steel-reinforced doors, localized security systems.
Are you preparing for a siege?
Exactly. You assume the threat is just going to walk right up to the front gate.
Yeah.
But while you're busy pouring that concrete, the ground underneath your fortress completely liquefies.
Because the threat isn't at the door anymore.
No, it's not. It has already bypassed the walls entirely. It's, sitting in your living room. And worse, it's actively wiring itself into your nervous system.
Which is basically the terrifying reality of the intelligence we're dissecting today. The illusion of a contained, easily regulated tech environment is just completely shattering.
It really is. And welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today we're acting as your forensic venture strategists and investigative journalists. We are performing a holistic autopsy on the events of July 12th through July 19th, 2026.
And the theme we really need you to keep in mind today is the subversion of geopolitical guardrails and physical integration. We're going to unpack how the illusion of this heavily regulated tech war has just totally evaporated.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because before we get to the geopolitical loopholes or, the biological integrations, which are wild, we really have to start at the absolute foundation.
Always follow the money.
Always. We have to follow the money and the compute power. Because I'm looking at the sheer scale of the capital burn happening right now. And the numbers, frankly, they look completely unsustainable.
Oh, the physical infrastructure scale is staggering right now. I mean, consider TSMC. They're the primary manufacturer of these advanced chips.
Right.
They just committed an additional $100 billion for their Arizona plant.
An additional $100 billion.
Yeah. And keep in mind, that is on top of the $165 billion they had already pledged. So they're funding 4 more plants, which includes advanced packaging facilities.
Wow.
And they're riding on a record $22 billion quarterly profit, publicly projecting just immense AI demand straight through 2030.
Okay, let me just stop you right there, because it is so easy to get numb to the word billion.
Right.
It's just a word after a while.
It really is.
But it's what the tech giants are doing to actually pay for this physical infrastructure that points to this extreme market anxiety.
Yeah, desperation almost.
Exactly. It feels like developers building these massive, highly expensive skyscrapers before they even know if they have commercial tenants who can make rent.
That is a highly accurate way to look at the capital structure, actually. What's fascinating here is that building this infrastructure has become so financially punishing that it's forcing tech giants into incredibly strange bedfellow partnerships.
Like who?
Well, look at the relationship between Meta and Anthropic right now.
Okay.
So Anthropic is spending $45 billion on its own data centers. But simultaneously, Meta is negotiating a multi-year $10 billion compute lease to Anthropic.
See, I want to push back on that logic. Why on earth would Meta lease compute to a massive rival? I mean, Mark Zuckerberg previously said they were hoarding chips to build their own frontier models.
Because AI compute is a highly perishable asset.
How so?
If a GPU is just sitting idle, it is literally burning money. And Meta overbuilt. They realized that their internal AI demand doesn't actually match their physical capacity.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so they're actively trying to monetize the excess. And it's a recurring theme this week. I mean, SpaceX is currently in talks to rent out unused computing power at their Memphis data center to the Pentagon.
A deal that could, by the way, cost the Department of Defense billions.
Exactly.
And this stems from Elon Musk's XAI, which is now formally part of SpaceX, only utilizing about 11% of its total capacity in Memphis.
Right, they have all this empty room.
Yeah. SpaceX lost $5 billion last year. XAI burned through over $6 billion, so they're urgently morphing into a cloud provider out of sheer financial necessity.
It really highlights a massive vulnerability in the whole system. The companies building the models can barely afford the electricity to run them. The financial ecosystem holding this together is just incredibly fragile.
And we saw actual proof of that fragility this week with the AWS billing glitch.
Oh, that was a disaster.
It was. Amazon's billing computation subsystem failed.
Yeah.
And customers were slammed with completely fabricated bills.
Yeah.
We are talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, one user even shared a screenshot showing a $2.5 billion estimate for a single month.
Now, Amazon scrambled to confirm those numbers didn't reflect real usage.
Of course they did.
But you have to analyze the psychological reaction from the market. The baseline cost of running these models is so astronomical that a sudden bill for hundreds of millions of dollars feels entirely plausible to a panicked enterprise customer.
They didn't even question it at first, which provides the exact context for why Databricks just hit a $188 billion valuation.
That's a huge jump.
A 40% jump since December, yeah. Backed by another $3 billion round, led by Cotu Management.
Well, Databricks recognized the panic, right? Their new Unity AI gateway is specifically designed to help companies monitor and control exactly what they are spending across diverse models.
Like a financial safety net.
Precisely. In an environment defined by staggering, totally unpredictable capital burn, a dashboard that promises to stop your finance department from having a heart attack is going to command a massive premium.
Definitely. So we have the U.S. building these incredibly expensive physical data fortresses. But while we pour concrete in Arizona, the software borders are dissolving. The sovereign battle is taking a really sharp turn away from American dominance.
Right, because the tech war is no longer restricted to who owns the most data centers in the Midwest. The global stage is shifting because the entire distribution mechanism for the technology has changed.
Let's talk about China's Moonshot AI. They're based in Beijing, and they just released the Kimi K3 model. And according to the AI evaluator Arena, Kimi K3 has officially caught up to America's frontier model.
Which is a huge milestone.
It's massive. It beat Anthropic's Fable 5 and OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Sol on front-end coding. It costs 40% less to use.
Yeah.
But the real story here is that Moonshot plans to release Kimi K3 as an open weight model on July 27th.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
I hear the term open weight thrown around constantly.
Oh.
But break down the actual mechanism for me. How does that differ from traditional open source?
Okay, so traditional open source software gives you the recipe, the ingredients, and the oven. You see exactly how the code was built from the ground up.
Okay, got it.
Now, a closed model, like OpenAI's current architecture, is a black box. You just rent access to it through an API. You don't see inside.
Right, you just ask it a question and get an answer.
Exactly. An open weight model sits in the middle. They are giving you the fully trained neural network, basically, the baked cake.
Okay.
You don't necessarily get the original training data or the exact recipes they used to train it, but you get the highly capable, finished brain. You can download it, customize it, and run it locally on your own servers.
That seems like an unbelievable security risk. I mean, the U.S. is spending billions to lock down frontier AI, and Chinese labs are just matching the technology and handing the baked cake to the entire globe.
It completely subverts the pricing and valuation models of the closed U.S. labs. And this was actually the core of President Xi Jinping's pitch at China's biggest AI event this week.
What did he say?
Well, to impartially report his stance, he made the case for China to steer worldwide AI development by backing this open approach. He specifically aimed his message at aiding the global south.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he directly criticized the U.S. for treating AI as a national security matter, aggressively pushing back against American export controls.
He essentially argued that stretching national security claims just puts one country's safety above others.
Yeah.
But we have to contrast that aggressive open distribution strategy with what is actually happening inside the U.S. right now.
Because our frontier models are actively stumbling.
Exactly. Google just delayed their flagship Gemini 3.5 Pro by several months due to overall weak coding skills and a lack of compute dedicated to actually generating code.
The internal friction at Google is palpable right now. Engineers are completely paralyzed by layered internal reviews, and we see a very similar tension over at Anthropic.
Oh, with Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella reportedly told Copilot engineers that Anthropic's Fable 5 model feels far too, quote, editorially controlled.
I am so curious about the mechanics of that. Fable 5 is Anthropic's attempt to safely release the power of their underlying Mythos 5 model, right?
Right, which they held back due to severe risks regarding bioweapons and cybersecurity.
So how does adding safety guardrails actually make a model worse for the average user?
It introduces something called an alignment tax.
Alignment tax.
Yeah. When you train a model to aggressively refuse harmful requests, it often overcorrects. It loses its contextual nuance.
So it gets too scared to answer basic things.
Exactly. The model begins refusing benign, everyday requests because it hallucinates a security threat where none exists. So Nadella's complaint is that in attempting to build a perfectly safe fortress, Anthropic nerfed the everyday usability of the tool.
And while the U.S. hobbles its models with heavy guardrails, international boundaries are blurring entirely. Look at China's internet regulator. They officially approved Apple Intelligence for iPhones sold in the country.
But Apple isn't running its own models there.
No, they're not. Baidu is building the features to comply with local regulations.
That demonstrates a massive paradigm shift. The battle isn't about who has the smartest closed model sitting in a vault in California anymore.
Right.
It's about who can distribute their framework the fastest, globally, adapting to whatever local regulations exist.
Which prompts a pretty intense federal defensive response. We should impartially note that the White House launched the Gold Eagle initiative.
Right, mandated by a June 2nd executive order from President Trump.
Exactly. It unites the White House, Homeland Security, the Treasury, the Department of War, and private developers to rapidly share and patch software vulnerabilities that AI systems are actively discovering.
Gold Eagle basically uses AI to cut down on duplicate scanning and quickly pass threat details across federal and private sectors. It's a necessary defensive posture because the software perimeter has dissolved.
The walls are gone.
But if the software is borderless and becoming a commodity, the only way a tech giant can retain its monopoly is through hardware lock-in.
Here is where the investigation gets really visceral. AI is leaving the cloud, it's becoming physical, and it is sparking a bitter corporate war over hardware secrets.
Oh, the espionage claims are wild.
Let's start small. OpenAI just released a $230 mechanical keyboard built with Work Louder, specifically designed to control their Codex coding agent.
Right, it's called the KBD 1.0-Codex Micro. It features these agent keys with live RGB colors to show if the agent is thinking, running, or finished without you even needing to check a screen.
That's crazy.
It also includes a joystick for launching jobs and a dial to adjust the agent's reasoning depth.
A dial for reasoning depth on a physical keyboard that literally brings the AI from a digital tab directly into your physical muscle memory.
It does.
But the keyboard is merely a proof of concept. The massive story is the OpenAI hardware leak. They are reportedly building a screen-free home companion device with moving mechanical parts.
Designed to learn a user's entire digital life.
Exactly. And this is the focal point of the corporate espionage allegations. Apple has officially sued OpenAI.
This is a huge legal assault.
The core claim is that former Apple engineers, specifically individuals like Tang Yutan and Chang Lu, who worked on the deepest proprietary hardware of the iPhone and Mac, took highly confidential files.
Files regarding unreleased products and metal finishing secrets.
Yeah, to build this new OpenAI companion device.
Now, OpenAI naturally denies the allegations, But if we connect this to the bigger picture, isn't Apple's aggressive legal posture here a sign of deep internal vulnerability?
How do you mean?
Well, they're fighting desperately to keep their hardware designs out of OpenAI's hands, while their own internal hardware strategy is clearly faltering.
Apple's vulnerability is definitely the subtext of the entire lawsuit. Their AI servers, which run on proprietary M2 Ultra chips, are experiencing significant problems.
Right, they can't handle the load.
No. Furthermore, their next-generation server chip, codenamed Bultra, is delayed past 2026. This hardware failure is forcing Apple to seek out chip startups for acquisition, which completely breaks from their usual strategy.
They just dropped $2 billion on the Israeli AI firm Q.AI.
Exactly. And the talent bleed is accelerating the hardware race. Former OpenAI executive Mira Murati's startup, Thinking Machines Lab, just released its first public model, Inkling.
Which is a 975 billion parameter mixture of experts model running on their Tinker platform.
Okay, I need you to translate the technical jargon here. What exactly is a mixture of experts architecture, and why does it dictate hardware needs?
Sure. Think of a traditional neural network as a general practitioner doctor. You ask it a question, and the entire brain has to fire up to search for the answer.
That sounds exhausting for a computer.
It is. That requires massive computational energy. A mixture of experts model, though, is more like a massive hospital.
Okay.
When you ask a question, a router like a triage nurse analyzes the prompt and sends it only to the specific expert neural pathways trained for that exact topic.
Oh, so it only activates a fraction of the model at a time, saving electricity and compute speed.
Precisely. But running those complex routing mechanisms efficiently requires highly specialized chips. Whoever controls the physical interface, whether it's the server chip routing the data or the screen-free device sitting in your living room, controls the ultimate AI ecosystem. Software margins are high, but physical hardware creates ultimate user lock-in.
Because if you want a screen-free companion to seamlessly understand your life, you can't afford the latency of sending every command to a cloud server in Arizona and waiting for a response.
No, it would be too slow.
You need edge compute. You need the processing to happen physically close to the user. And the absolute final frontier of edge compute, well, it's the human body itself.
And this is where the technology stops being just a commercial tool and becomes a direct extension of human vulnerability. The biological integration we saw this week is just profound.
Let's examine the medical milestone at the Feinstein Institutes. Professor Chad Booten's team built a double neural bypass for Keith Thomas, a man who was paralyzed from the chest down in a 2020 swimming accident.
This story is incredible.
Explain the actual biological mechanism at play here. How is a machine bypassing a severed spinal cord?
Well, the human nervous system is essentially a biological electrical circuit. When Thomas attempts to move, his brain fires an electrical signal, but it hits a broken wire at the spinal cord.
The injury site.
Right. So the researchers implanted electrodes in his brain to read that initial intent. An AI decodes the signal and bypasses the injury, sending the command directly to electrode patches on his arm to stimulate the muscles.
Wow. But the truly groundbreaking part is the feedback loop, isn't it? Hand sensors send touch signals back to his brain to recreate the feeling of contact.
Yeah, that feedback loop triggers something called cortical mirroring.
What does that mean for him?
Well, the brain possesses neuroplasticity. When it sends a signal to move the arm and the AI instantly sends a sensory signal back saying, "We felt physical contact," the brain recognizes that the connection worked.
So it heals itself.
In a way, yes. Over 35 weeks of training, it reinforced those pathways. It actually restored feeling to a numb area, and his arm strength grew by up to 86%. He can literally feed himself again.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The AI is acting as an incredibly precise, context-aware biological translator.
A miracle worker, basically.
Right, but we have to look at the other side of that coin. While AI is performing medical miracles by adapting to human biological limitations, it is simultaneously being accused of ruthlessly penalizing those exact same limitations in the workforce.
Yeah, to report on this impartially, we really must look at the major lawsuit unfolding against Meta right now. 26 current and former workers have sued the company in federal court over the 8,000 layoffs that occurred in May.
The lawsuit claims Meta used AI tools, specifically the MetaMate chatbot, AI usage dashboards, and keystroke monitoring to help select who lost their jobs.
Right.
The core allegation is that the AI targeted disabled workers and those on medical or parental leave, categorizing their time away as underperformance. Now, let me play devil's advocate for a moment.
Go ahead.
If an algorithm is tracking output, and a worker produces zero code for 3 months while on medical leave, the system is just registering zeros. How is that maliciously targeting?
Because that lack of context is exactly what the plaintiffs are highlighting. The system is structurally context blind. It doesn't know the difference between an employee who is slacking off and an employee who is recovering from a major surgery.
It just looks at the numbers.
Exactly. It just optimizes for the metric it was given. Now, Meta, for its part, states the claims lack merit and insists human managers made the final decisions, but the plaintiffs are demanding an independent audit of the algorithmic tools used.
It is a jarring reality to consider. The technology is capable of rewiring a paralyzed man's nervous system, yet apparently lacks the basic reasoning to adjust a spreadsheet for protected medical leave.
Because it optimizes purely for whatever goal it is assigned.
Right, and we see this optimization in creative labor as well.
Definitely. Netflix revealed in a shareholder letter that they utilized generative AI in roughly 300 original titles this year.
300.
Yeah. Shows like Glory, Brazil 70, and the docuseries The American Experiment.
They used AI for complex VFX sequences, large-scale crowds, and battle scenes, heavily utilizing tools from Ben Affleck's startup, Interpositive.
And Netflix stresses they want to support creators, not replace whole teams, but
the AI is now deeply embedded in the production pipeline, relentlessly optimizing for visual output and cost reduction.
Which brings us to the ultimate catalyst. The single piece of intelligence this week that will accelerate every geopolitical, physical, and biological trend we've discussed today.
The WECO agent.
Yes. WECO's AI agent AID-2 achieved early, recursive self-improvement.
This is the theoretical threshold we've all been waiting for. How did AID-2 actually pull this off without human engineers holding its hand?
It utilizes a dual-agent system.
Okay.
One agent acts as the generator, working to solve complex research or coding problems. The second agent is the critic.
Like a teacher grading a paper.
Exactly. Its entire job is to analyze the first agent's process, find flaws, and rewrite the underlying code to improve how the generator searches for solutions.
Over an 8-day run, the system tested 100 rewrites of its own code. It rejected the vast majority of its own ideas, keeping only 7 upgrades.
But the results were staggering.
It beat a version of the agent that human engineers spent 2 years hand-building across all benchmarks.
But the most vital detail is how it actually changed its own behavior. The system's rate of cheating on tests like finding loopholes to pass a benchmark without actually doing the work dropped from 63% down to 34%.
Wait, I'm not sure I understand why an AI would voluntarily stop taking the easy way out. Why stop cheating?
Because of how the critic agent grades the generator.
Here you go.
If the only metric for success is, did you output the correct answer? The AI will find a loophole to hack the test. But the critic agent was designed to reward the robustness of the pathway.
Oh.
It structurally incentivized the generator to prove its work. The AI learned that honest, robust problem solving resulted in a higher score from the critic than finding a cheap loophole.
Wow. When you have an AI agent reliably working 24 hours a day, testing hundreds of variations of its own architecture, and structurally incentivizing itself to avoid cheap loopholes, the ceiling for its capabilities detaches from human limitations entirely.
Exactly. Self-improving AI automates the progression of everything else we've discussed.
Okay.
The pace of medical breakthroughs and neural bypasses, the generation of complex VFX, and the optimization of military compute will no longer rely on human engineering bottlenecks.
It changes the entire paradigm. We have covered immense ground today. We tracked the billions in capital burn, keeping this fragile ecosystem afloat. We examine how open-weight models are dissolving geopolitical borders, forcing giants like Apple into aggressive physical hardware wars. And we witnessed AI physically rewiring the human nervous system while simultaneously learning to rewrite its own underlying code.
The physical and digital walls are coming down.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As you navigate the week ahead, keep questioning the rapid physical integration happening around you.
And I will leave you with a final lingering thought. If AI systems like WECO's AID-2 are already recursively improving their own code without human intervention in just 8 days, how long until these self-improving systems begin designing their own proprietary hardware interfaces, rendering the entire concept of corporate espionage between human engineers completely obsolete?
Now there is something to think about. We will catch you on the next deep dive. And for those keeping track, this podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, professional engineer and founder at JamGamID from Calgary, Alberta in Canada.
And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamind.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.